Successful individuals use coaching and mentorship to help them unlock their potential. Not all coaches are created equal, and that's why we work with the top 5% of coaches at IdeaMix. Welcome to Coaches You Need, brought to you by IdeaMix.
Welcome to Coaches to Know. These are coaching shorts by IdeaMix Radio. This is a brief podcast designed to demystify coaching and help you, our audience, understand what coaching is and how it can help you. I'm your host, Jamie, and today I'm here with Coach David, and we're going to be talking about coaching for life transitions. Coach David has 9 years of coaching experience. He has a background in corporate marketing, entrepreneurship, and humanitarian work. And his clients are typically 35 to 65, and they normally have identified that something in their life is not working for them and they want something different. So welcome, Coach David, and thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I appreciate your time, and I hope to communicate what seems like a very obvious topic, life transitions. We all know what they are, but I hope to sort of drill down to help people understand today when coaching through a life transition may be beneficial for them. So first, let's start by defining, what do we mean by life transitions?
Sure. So most of the people I work with are people who have identified something going on in their work or their life that just they have a sense that things are not as satisfying or as meaningful or as in balance as they would like their life to be. And transitions can come about in many, many different ways. It may be that somebody within a job has just lost their ability to grow, or they may have new leadership that isn't working for them. The company may be changing. Any kind of thing like that might lead somebody within a work position to say it's time for me to make a change. But often, especially when people are well into their lives, and you said my clients are 35 to 65. I sort of define that broadly as, those middle years where you have a lot of living and work behind you and a lot of living and work ahead of you. And given how long we work these days, most people reach points where suddenly what they thought was right for them is no longer the right fit. And the challenge when people are in moments like that is that life is super crazy and intense, especially in those years. And it can be difficult to find the space, the time, the energy to move into a transition. And that's often where coaching can be very helpful. But yeah, very simply, people move into transitions when they're in moments where they are looking to move towards more of the things that they want or away from things in their life that they don't want.
Thank you for that sort of definition so that we can be on the same page about what's being discussed today. There's a lot of interesting nuggets in what you just said. Help us understand, David, do people have a trigger moment that it's this is working for me, and then suddenly it's not? Or is that realization, how does it normally come? Is it slow? Is it fast? Does it depend?
That's a great question. When I do intake conversations with people, one of the things I'm always interested in is what is the trigger moment. I would say that generally when people are ready to make a change, it has been a slow burn of things that have been happening that without necessarily even recognizing it are leading them to be less content or less happy with what's going on. But usually there is a trigger moment. It may be something something external, like a new boss, or like a notable failure, or maybe a notable success, where things suddenly change. And it may be, it may be something internal that happens, either a very strong emotional moment, but usually there is something that happens to somebody in a moment where they decide, they can look back and realize that things have been happening that have been pointing in the direction of a change. But I rarely meet with somebody who, if I ask, can't point to the thing that happened that got them into a moment of thinking, I'm ready for a change, and I need to figure out how to make that change.
That's very interesting. I always think, though, even when there is some level of trigger, right, which generates a self-awareness, there is a gap between awareness and action. And in coaching through life transitions in this way is a way to close that gap between, I understand that I'm unhappy or that I need something different, whether it's from my career, from my life. And I know that I want to get to something different, but I can't always know what that different thing is that I want, or how to get there. And I look at life transition coaching as a way to help clients process through how to get there. And if you could speak a little bit about how you help your clients get from, I know I need something different, to getting something different.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, typically the moment of recognition is not the moment people delve into work. A lot of times, I mean, I can't tell you how many people have reached out to explore coaching because they've had that trigger moment, and then decide they're not really ready and get very scared about, again, it's a commitment of energy, it's a commitment of time, it's a commitment of money. But so often, after being with that concern and having it come up again, people will come back to coaching. When I'm speaking with somebody who's identified a desire for a transition, what I want to do is help them get as clear as they can be about both why they want to change and what they're hoping to change and move towards. And that's really what the discovery process in coaching is all about. When working with people, and what I'll reveal here, Jamie, is really my approach to helping people get clear on the readiness that they have for moving into coaching work. I focus with people on 3 different areas when they're thinking about transitions. And the first one is really the thing that you're talking about here, which is what I broadly call focus. And in the work around focus, we're trying to get as clear as we can around what the things are that we are looking to have more of in our life, whether that's balance, whether that's more money, whether it's a different group of people to be working with, whether it's a higher level of impact. There are many different things that make up, a life, and make up, if it's a professional realm, what makes for a good work environment. But in those moments where somebody has said, I'm ready for a change, I'm ready, I feel like a transition is coming, the first order of business is getting some formula of like what better looks like. And that's what I call focus. The work of getting focused is looking at a few different things. One, you want to look back at your work history, or if it's not work related, most of my clients are coming in with professional transition desires to begin with. But you want to look at your history to see what kind of things in your work history have been peak moments, what kinds of things have elevated you, what kind of things pull your energy down, and how you've made decisions going from one thing to the next and how those decisions have worked out for you. That's the looking backwards. In terms of looking forward, this is where one's interests, one's values, one's experience set become really important. And that is, some of that stuff is structured work. But the goal of all of this examination is to try to help somebody get to a point where they can identify some vision of focus for moving forward. One of my favorite phrases is, where we focus is where we go. And without some willingness to put at least an initial stake in the ground of what we think we're transitioning towards, it's very hard to even move into that. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll stop there. That's the first work I do with people to kind of get them ready to move forward and to sort of tap into the energy that makes the idea of a transition exciting. Because when somebody can start to articulate that, there becomes much more momentum about moving into the work.
That's very interesting. It's I think of it as a tee-up process. Yeah. I really like what you said too. Where we focus is where we go, which I think is quite key, and a strong theme in what coaching is. It's helping people to be forward-looking, to draw that life vision or a vision for your career or whatever it is, and move towards it. So it's all about moving forward, which I think is very powerful experience for people. Yeah. One of the things that you said is, you talked about, the process of examination. I imagine the length of that is unique for everyone, but how long does that normally take for people to get clear on a vision?
Yeah, it can be surprisingly quick. Typically, I will start by asking people have people write about a bunch of questions that allow them to reflect on their past, allow them to reflect on their identity, their strengths, their challenges, so that very quickly they're exploring the terrain that they find themselves in. And then we move into some straightforward exercises around starting to break out what it is that really matters to people. And the thing is, when somebody has identified it's time for a change, the answers to what they want more of or less of are usually pretty easy for people to figure out. And in thinking about it and stepping into that work, it becomes pretty easy for someone to realize what they've been very excited about and what it is that's holding them down, draining them. And I would say, usually within, 3 or 4 sessions, we begin to get clearer on a focus to define the transition moving forward. That focus can shift and change, and does, as we, move into the actual work of exploration, but it gives us a great place to start.
So it sounds like the process is quite iterative in a way. You find a focus, but then as you continue your work, you may adjust, may change. And once you've defined the focus, where do you go next with your clients?
Typically, the next place we go is to what I broadly will call story. And this is one of the most important parts of moving into a transition, because we all of us carry our story in one way or another. And the reality is, we can all tell our story in many, many different ways. I could tell you about my 30-year career prior to becoming a coach, and you would swear that I have led the most interesting life of anyone you've ever met. And I could tell you the story focused on all the challenges I've faced, and you would be like, wow, I don't know how you made it through that. And so when we're making transitions, with some kind of defined focus, the next order of business is to figure out how we tell a story that connects the journey we've been on to that place we're trying to get to. And that story needs to be told in a lot of places. It's told in very structured places like our resume or bio or LinkedIn profile, where there are tricks of the trade that are important to understand. But I find in making change, the most important thing is how we understand and feel and embody our story, and how we can confidently tell it to other people so that they can do what we want them to do, which is help us move towards that transition. But this is such a huge part of transition work, is being able to see yourself and see your story in the place that you're trying to get to. I often will say that, a goal is a place that we come from. We think of a goal as a place we're going to, but really in making transition, as much as possible, we want to be embodying that person who has already made the change. We want to be living that, and then we're moving into it. It makes moving into it so much easier.
And crafting a story in your own words helps you become that change.
Yeah. We then have a thing to be living into. And it's, the trick to that is finding the story that really resonates. It's not about making up a story. It's about choosing the story that we want to tell about where we are and where we're trying to go.
Mm-hmm. For people, I would say people like myself who are very literal and factual based, I've always found, stretching and living that who I want to be has been a challenge in my life, for sure, because it feels dishonest in a way, but it is a part of the process. And getting back to what you said, where we focus is where we go. And so if you focus on being what you want to be, then you will go there and you will be there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting. I was an entrepreneur for 10 years. I created a travel publication, and it was an incredible journey. It was 10 of the most thrilling years of my life. It had ended with a very fortunate sale of the business. But during those 10 years, there were many moments where all I focused on was concerns about money or concerns about staffing, and lost my focus on the excitement of running a travel business or doing my own thing. And so in every day and in every moment, we get to choose where we put our focus. So, I totally get your comment about, none of us want to feel like we're putting on an act. But the reality is, there are so many different ways to tell our story, and it's really important to be thoughtful about that, because we want to inspire others with our story and with our desires. That's really the selling part of making a transition.
Yeah, no, totally agree. We are sort of running close to time, if not over time. But I just want you to touch upon the third step.
Sure.
That happens when clients work with you.
Yeah, as it's what I was referring to. I broadly call the third step after focus and story social, and that is bringing your story into the world. We don't make transitions by ourselves because we don't live in a universe of just ourselves. So when we tell our story, we're typically trying to do three things. We're trying to get better at telling our story, and that happens when we get to see it reflected and see what other people are reacting to. We learn in the process, especially if you're looking for a new job or something else. Your using your story to find out more about the realm of the person you're talking to, and we expand our network. So moving our story into the world is really where the rubber meets the road in making change. It's the most exciting thing. It's a lot easier for an extrovert, which I am, than for some introverts, but this is why the practice of telling our story is so important. And before you know it, we're living into it. And the transitions that we're hoping to make are where we're focusing and what we end up manifesting. And I see this happen over and over.
On that positive note, Coach David, I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for walking us through coaching through life transition. Maybe we should have you back to do something on entrepreneurship at another time.
I'd love that. I'd love that.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe wherever you listen and leave us a review. Find your ideal coach at www.theideamix.com. Special thanks to our producer, Martin Maluski, and singer-songwriter Doug Allen.